So there's two readings that I'm going to share with you that relate to these two large photographs in the main gallery. And basically, I've just been doing some writing in response to these, which I feel like are sort of the distillation of some of the themes that were most interesting to me in this process of looking through all these magazines. So this piece, this distillation photo is called Suits, Charts, and Abstractions. And that represents to me, those are names of three of the binders, and that represents to me like three of the sort of most intriguing of the tropes that were found across these images. And so I'm going to read to you a fable that was written in response to this image. And the fable is called The Rancher, the Fence, and the Rippling Image, juxtaposed with Suits, Charts, and Abstractions. And this will be about 5 minutes or so. The Rancher, the Fence, and the Rippling Image. The herd of buffalo came together at dusk to decide how to become free. One young bison put himself forward with a proposal saying, "The rancher from the federal park system is our clear enemy. He has enclosed us and turned us into farm animals and tourist attractions. I vote that after our second grazing tomorrow, we stampede the rancher." The herd concluded that this was a good thing to do, and they began imagining their freedom while they chewed the grass. The next afternoon, the rancher appeared on his horse at the top of a small rock ledge just above them and exclaimed, "It's moving time. Time is moving, so it's time you move." Stricken with anxiety, the members of the herd tried to think about the times the rancher had abused them and how that was about to change. Without signal or clear leadership, they charged the rancher and toppled him from the horse. And when the dust settled, they turned around and saw his lifeless body, broken and flattened. The young bison who had originally proposed the attack proclaimed, "We're free! Let's roam and wander and drift over yonder." The herd rejoiced. And when they were finished, they drifted toward the outer edges of the lowland prairie in which they had been recently grazing. Approaching a large rocky barrier, an elder herd member who knew the terrain investigated the area and announced, "Friends, the good news is that on the other side of this rocky slope is an upland prairie which is ungrazed and has full lakes to nourish us as long as we care to settle. The bad news is that there appears to be bison-proof fencing at all of the logical entrances. It appears we have ridden ourselves of one enemy, only to find a new one in this fence." The herd bowed their heads in despair and hopelessness. This is not the taste of freedom, and this fence was not anticipated. The grumbles were unintelligible, but the elder bison knew he needed to say more to relieve the tension. "The fence is human-made. If we study it, I'm sure we can find its flaws and get through it eventually," said the elder. A very young calf, gifted at problem-solving, chimed in and said, "The fence is electric, and I can train you all in the basics of electricity, and we can all try and come up with solutions to this problem we're facing." The herd grumbled, and the young bison who proposed the killing of the rancher shouted, "It will take forever to learn the human sciences, and since it is my fault we're here, I will sacrifice myself, and you can cross the fence by galloping across my back to avoid the current." With that, he ran toward the fence and leapt, draping his front hooves across the wires, spasming at the initial shock, and then falling limp, a buffalo carpet leading to where the buffalo roam. Shocked by the sudden death of their friend and honored by the sacrifice, the herd gathered together and walked single file across the young bison's back and over the fence. Staying quiet as they climbed the path up the slope, they contemplated the sacrifices of buffalo and human life, their desire for freedom, and the impact the despair and recurring obstacles had made on their hearts. Tired of marching, hungry and thirsty, the herd was slowing their climb. The calf who knew electricity raced ahead to see if the top was near. When she arrived, she exclaimed to those below, "It's what we wanted. It's here, only a few feet away. Hurry, hurry. The taste of freedom is sweet and near and here." The herd mustered energy and galloped the final steps to see it for themselves. The upland prairie was marvelous, just as the elder promised. Again they rejoiced, again feeling the obstacles were gone. When roaming buffalo reach a new area, it's customary for the elder herd member to drink from the largest body of water and share a formal statement with the others. This was customary, though none of these buffalo knew it in experience, because they had been domesticated by the rancher since birth, with no exception except the elder. This put extra pressure on his words. He led the herd toward the lake. With them behind him, he bowed his head to get a drink. His snout touched the water, and ripples appeared, revealing himself in reflection alongside the herd, the rancher, and the electric fence. His tongue slurped the water, and he slowly turned toward the herd. The rippling image would not leave his mind, and he could not speak. And so that's the end. The images that were sort of most frequent and sort of jumped out to me the most were things that had to do with desperation or sort of psychic or emotional crisis. And so you can see in the binders, this is sort of indicated somewhat by, like there's the only category that had so many images that it required two binders to fill was the category of desperation. And so this image is kind of just like, again, a distillation of that kind of insight that was found through looking at all these images. And so this photograph is called Recessionary Affects, Releasing Psychic Rage and Fear Brought About by Economic Crisis as Depicted in the Crisis Image Archives. And this reading, which is a manifesto, is also called Recessionary Affects number 2. We failed to understand what the images told us, but we will not fail again. A look back at the Crisis Image Archives. This is from the future. All our lives we had trained and improved ourselves, refining our hopes and aspirations toward really, truly admirable goals. And then you remember laying in bed with your lover, distracted pillow talk, wondering what life was for, what your debt was for, stressing on unpaid bills or not quite enough paid work, or how to get ahead, the impossibility of getting ahead, or how to get a job that could let you even ask such a bold question of what ahead meant to you. Welcome. Meanwhile, the last functions of welfare, the redistribution of wealth and resources were being dismantled, and it didn't matter because it already felt too small to even notice, except when you did, or when you needed it, or when it showed up in the form of a bus or a library or a free something that you were happy not to pay for. We kept reading the words to have the basic facts, the technical mechanisms of adjustable rate loans and mortgage-backed securities, the shadow banking system of short profits, the complete evaporation of liquidity. It was well understood. But the images told a different story. The images did something that our words could never do. They conveyed the depth in the disciplining of our hearts and minds by hyper-competitive, speculative, and financial economic logics. They did those things that artists do so much better than analysts. They depicted our imaginations and our souls. They captured our emotions with a gesture, a line, or a metaphor. And within those psychic portraits, we could have realized that there was a unique opportunity to stop being distracted and reorient our energies. So that's the end of that.